Colton, as someone who uses social media, right? We all do. I think in this day and age, everyone has to. You're in a better position than me, for sure, to talk about some of the implications that social media could have on a personal injury lawsuit. Why don't we first talk a little bit about social media? What's the popular platforms today that people need to think about?
Popular platforms most people use right now include Facebook, Instagram, X or Twitter, TikTok, LinkedIn, maybe in a more professional setting.
Are they all the same that anybody can look up a person's profile and see their posts? How does that work?
In terms of the public viewing of your posts, of your profile, there are certain security measures that you can take to screen who has access to look at what you post, who has access to your accounts. Those security measures prevent people from going into your account to take a look at what you post, right? If privacy is of great concern to you, especially when in a lawsuit, your whole life is under a microscope, essentially. At any point in time, insurance companies can get private investigators to do a search on you, on your Facebook, Instagram. In order to prevent people from going into your profile to see what you post, you can always toggle a setting in your accounts to prevent public viewing from being available. Only individuals who you approve of can go into your profile to look at what you post.
And I know we always give our clients advice. Social media could be used against you. Be aware of what you're posting on social media. Explain why it's important or how social media posts can be used against an injured party in the context of a personal injury claim.
In a lot of cases, whenever individuals are involved in an accident where they are injured because of the accident, they can't do certain activities. They're alleging that they are no longer able to stand for extended periods of time. Yet, in their social media posts, they would post them going to a party, dancing hours and hours. They have posts showing they are back into hardcore sports like skiing, skateboarding. Yet, they're alleging that they can't do a lot of activities as a direct result of their injuries.
Definitely hurts their credibility. If they're telling their doctors they're having difficulties and they can't do things, and then they're on social media doing it. Okay, so that's a real obvious one where they're essentially caught in a lie. They're telling their doctor one thing and they're doing something completely different on social media. What about something more subtle? How else is social media potentially problematic in a personal injury lawsuit?
A lot of the times when you post, not only are your pictures posted, but everything that you're interested in, your likes. It might lead down to a rabbit hole where the insurance companies would eventually know everywhere that you hang out, all your friends, all the organizations you participate in, all these clubs that you're a part of.
Yeah, that's an important point. So even if you're not harming your case from your own posts, you opened up your life as a book, so to speak, so that now they know where else they can get information to try to use against you. That's an important point. An investigator can go and interview people who are identified on your social media account. What about people out there that are watching and saying, well, they have no right to talk to anybody?
Well, unfortunately, witnesses aren't owned by any party. So any individual is allowed to conduct interviews or obtain statements from any other individual that you have associations with.
Yeah. So there's nothing to prevent an insurance company from
speaking with your friends, speaking with your neighbors, speaking with your employers.
What else would an investigator potentially do? Besides, obviously, they can interview people around you, but what else?
Investigators can also follow you around in terms of getting surveillance, speak with any individual that you are associated with. Again, go through your social media posts if it's not set to private and it's public.
And does the insurance company have to tell us when they have surveillance or when they plan to get surveillance?
Unfortunately, they don't tell you ahead of time, nor do they have to disclose that you are currently being surveyed or being investigated on your social media posts, surveillance, things like that. The only time that they need to tell you is after the fact, if they intend to rely on the surveillance or whatever they are using against you. That's when they have to disclose it to you.
But by then, the damage may be done already.
And it's irreversible because it's already conducted, like the investigation's already completed.
All right, so you also mentioned settings in your social media accounts that limit public access to the information. Let's go through this scenario. You have a client, they were diligent, they didn't want to share it with the public, and they made their settings private. and now they're in a personal injury lawsuit. Is the private setting enough to keep their social media information out of the hands of the insurance company or the defendant?
Well, it depends. Let's say if your case is in litigation, most defense lawyers would request your social media posts to be kept in time. You're not allowed to delete the post. You're not allowed to amend your posts. Even if it's on private, you still have to be careful of that because at any point in time, the defense lawyers might request postings be produced to the other side.
So even if it's private, be careful what you're putting on there, because a defense lawyer, if they have a good argument, could persuade a judge to issue an order requiring you and your lawyer to disclose all that information.
Correct. Better to be safe than sorry, because then you wouldn't know what a court would rule, whether or not your private posts would become public in the eyes of the insurance companies.
So better not to post things that contradict the allegations you're making in your case. If you're honest in your case, you probably have nothing to worry about in that respect. What about posting about the litigation itself? You went to a deposition, the defense lawyer was aggressive, and you just want to vent about how bad the other lawyer was, or how annoyed you are by the process or by the opposing side or whatever it might be. What's your advice to people that think it's a good idea to go and talk about their case publicly?
I would highly advise against that. Again, during the course of litigation, all aspects of your life is pretty much under a microscope. Whether or not it can be used against you, it's always better to be safe than sorry, because if the posts of you venting your frustrations at the case, you venting frustrations about the other lawyer, for example, that doesn't paint a really good picture in terms of you as a claimant.
It might cast you in a poor light in front of a jury or ultimately even a judge. Okay, and what about someone who is just really active on social media and can't give it up? What advice do you have for them?
My advice would be think twice before they post something. Think about the implications that might arise, especially in relation to what the person is alleging they can and cannot do. Always be wary of that.
Yeah, how would it be perceived by somebody looking in and trying to decide the facts of your case and whether to award you money for the harms and losses you're claiming?
And perhaps they should ask their lawyers to see, how they should navigate the lawsuit in terms of their social media, in terms of their activities on social media. I would highly suggest them to ask their lawyer for advice at that point in time.
Yeah, that's a good point. Whenever you have any questions about anything during the pendency of your claim and how it might impact your case, best thing to do is just reach out to your lawyer and let them know, see if they can give you some advice in that regard.
Of course. So if you have any questions for us in relation to your personal injury claim, give us a call. Our contact details are in the description below.